All right, we're back on the Super Centex Podcast 2022. So that's what I'm calling it. Chad always had about 18 different names for our high school football podcast, but I'm going with the quality brand name that you know, Super Centex. That's a Trib brand name. So I'm here with Chad Conine.
I think I always called it the Super Centex Friday Night Lights, not quite ready for primetime players high school football podcast.
Yes, it was quite a mouthful. So I'm streamlining. And then also with us is DJ Ramirez, who joined the Trib a few months ago and covering high school football for us. And excited to have DJ with us. Welcome aboard.
I mean, technically I was already on board, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were. So DJ, when she was back at work, going to Baylor, helped us with high school football. Felt like 5 years. I guess it was 4, right?
Yeah, because last year I was at the Big 12, so.
Right. So,
but see, this podcast is a whole different ride. So, buckle
up. Oh my gosh. The wheels are already off. Let's talk some high school football. So you guys both were at games last week. I was at a game last week. We've got a week in the book. What is just your biggest takeaway from week 1 from a Central Texas perspective? I mean, what player, what team kind of impressed you the most?
I felt like it was kind of a soft opening last week. There wasn't quite as much hoopla and chatter on Twitter as I feel like there is, sometimes. And because I was covering my game and scrounging around for info to, see what else was going on Friday night. And there wasn't a whole lot, just popping out there. But one thing, and I told you guys when I made my picks, I forgot about this, but, the Cash McCollum, is that the quarterback at China Springs name?
Mm-hmm.
I'd forgotten that he came over from Wimberley in the spring and that he was like a big time QB, and he obviously, showed up big on Friday night.
Yeah, that's on you, really. I mean, for not doing your homework.
Yeah, I know.
DJ, what'd you think?
Well, I mean, I was at that China Spring Lorena game, and it was a great game. Obviously started off a little slow, and but yeah, Cash McCollum was really impressive. Tristan Ixline just made some fantastic plays. Like that was someone I wasn't really familiar with, coming in, not doing high school football for a year. But China Spring has always been good as far as I know that I've been here. So that was a really good game. I was impressed by Jackson Generals, Lorena's quarterback, and that his accuracy in his throws was actually just a little bit better than Cash McCollum's. And that's not to say that, one's better than the other, but I think, China Spring is getting a little used to having somebody that can throw as opposed to Lorena, who's had Jackson there.
Well, and Major Bowden was such a runner for them last year, and throughout his career. He just made the plays he had to with his arm.
Yeah, well, and Jackson Generals is new for Lorena as a starting quarterback. They had Ryan Abel last year as their state winning quarterback. Jackson Generals is just a good quarterback name. I mean,
what's a better quarterback name, Jackson Generals or Major Bowden?
Those are both pretty good. You got to admit.
Right.
But wouldn't the general outrank the major?
No, I think the major. Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking of sergeant. Yep.
Come on. I mean, this is where you get your military history here on our podcast.
Yeah, military rank. Anyway, I won't derail us on that one.
Yes. So, DJ, you liked the way Lorena looked even in a loss.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few times where, and I actually talked to Ray Biles right before we hopped on, but there were just a few times where they weren't making tackles, and offensively they had to get a little bit better up front. But I think that's just going to come with time and getting, it's a new year. Sure, they're state champions, but they're still getting used to a few things. So, I think that it's just going to come with time and getting those little small things fixed up and executed. But, on the other side, China Spring had a really experienced defense coming back, and, they had a few things that they had to work on. I actually saw Cash McCollum get hit a few times, and talking to Tyler Beatty yesterday, said that was something that they wanted to work on in the O-line, making sure that they're protecting the quarterback a little bit more. But for an opening night game, which I feel like everybody was hyped up about this game just because it was state champion against state champion, but it kind of lived up to the hype. China Spring was just a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, and a class up too. I mean, I think obviously that helps. So after week 1, we've got 13 teams in Central Texas ranked in the state poll. Those being Temple in 6A, the aforementioned China Spring, and then of course la-vega in 4A D1. We got Lorena-West in 3A D1, which we'll get to them, but Crawford and Marlin in 2A. We got Abbott and Jonesboro and Oglesby all in 1A. Abbott and Jonesboro are in 1A D1. Oglesby is in 1A D2. And then down in our private 6-man ranks, we have Live Oak, who of course won a state championship last year. So of the Central Texas teams that aren't ranked, not among that group that I just listed, which do you think has the potential to make the deepest playoff run when that rolls around?
Gosh, that's a tough question.
You look at week softballs 1 here, man. You got.
I know, and maybe I should have done my homework better on this too. But I'm slacking off these days. You look at Connally's result the other night in year 2 at Terry Garrick, and you think, okay, and they got a great quarterback too in Jelani McDonald. Could that be? They had such a fantastic year in, was it 2019 that they went 10-0 in the regular season?
That feels right.
It wasn't the screwed up pandemic year, because not everybody even played 10 games that year.
Correct.
But gosh, I mean, is that where the bar is set for that team?
Yeah, I mean, so I will. True confession here. When I wrote this question, I had Connally in mind.
You should have answered it first. Then you should have said that up front.
I mean, and DJ, if that's your answer, feel free to piggyback on it. But I mean,
it's like the dating game, Like I turned my card over, and it's the same thing you had, right?
Well, sure. So DJ, what do you think?
I mean, Connally is very good for sure. I think the last high school football game I covered before I joined you in the newsroom back in, it was the fall of 2020, because I graduated in 21. But it's they were pretty good back then. Not great just because it was a tough year, but I think Connally's got a shot for sure. Yeah,
so obviously, and a team you're writing about this week, you went out and talked to Terry Garrick and the cadets, but loaded with D1 talent, first of all. So that's a pretty good start. Jelani McDonald committed to Oklahoma State, now not as a quarterback, but as a DB. And then you got Kobe Black, Kobe's just a great all-around athlete. He was our Super Centex basketball newcomer of the year a few years ago. He's a junior now, highly recruited. Of course, his brother is at Oklahoma State as well, I believe. And then Jamari Wiggins is another one that's being, recruited pretty well. They've got the talent. I think it's time for Connally to put it together. They were 4-6, 4-7, something like that last year. I think they are expecting a lot more this year. And I would kind of be surprised if Connally doesn't win at least 10 games. And I haven't looked ahead at, how the bracket might fall come the playoffs. I haven't done that research, but I do think they have the potential to be a team, that goes deep, in the playoffs.
I'll throw one out there for you. This may not be a playoff run team, but this might be kind of our maybe our
Jinx Tucker.
Well, gosh, I hate to start talking about Jinx Tucker on August 31st.
It's a little
it's
early.
Way too early. I
It's
was about to say Jinx Tucker and you beat me to it, but look out for the Robinson Rockets. It's like you see a team celebrate so much with its fans and its band on a Friday night, and it's been a while since they've been real relevant, early in the Tommy Allison era probably, but they were excited, and they had some different guys making plays. They were going they were going one division. No, they were going two divisions up against University, and University they showed enough punch to actually take over the game if Robinson hadn't stood up and held on to it. So I don't know that I'm saying Jinx Tucker. I don't know that I'm saying deep playoff run, but that's one to watch because they got a little bit of momentum behind them now.
And I'm trying to remember that 4A D2 district that Robinson is in with Connally and Gainesville. Is that a 5-team district?
I can check that for you real quick.
Franklin.
I
would like to note that I was the only one that picked Robinson to win this week.
Nice.
We both picked University.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. And sure, I picked it because y'all picked University, but I felt like they were really hungry for a win. And so was University, but Robinson just really needed a win, especially to start off with a new coach. And, they've been really optimistic. I feel like all summer that I've talked to them, they've sounded really hopeful and really ready to get at it. So, yeah.
That is a 5-team district.
Yeah,
right?
to answer that question, it is a 5-team district. It's
and I think every team in the district won last week. So
it's 11 4A D2, and Connally and Salado, of course, are at the top of that district. That's pretty clear. But after that, you have Madisonville, Gatesville, and Robinson.
Well, I heard Madisonville looks really good last week.
Well, but see, all Robinson really has to do
is beat one of them.
And you're in the playoffs. Would that be huge in Mike Ludlow's first season? Absolutely. That would, for a team coming off a 3-7 year, that would be a big step. So yeah, let's keep an eye on the Rockets. We'll see. I would certainly pump the brakes on any deep playoff run talk, but
that's true. Yeah.
Two of the state ranked teams that we talked about earlier, Lorena and West. Lorena's ranked 5th. And really, to me, that seems like a little low, but it's, I guess based on the fact that they have a loss already against a very good China Spring team. And then you got West at number 9. They meet this Friday, top 10 matchup in West. This was a game that a lot of fans locally here wanted to see last year. It could have only happened
this one.
Yeah, it could have only happened in the state championship game based on the way the bracket fell. And of course, it didn't come to pass. West made a great run, but got beat. Wasn't it Mount Vernon that knocked him out, Chad? I want to say that might be right. So DJ, you're writing about this matchup in tomorrow's paper as we record the podcast today. It'll be online later today on Wednesday. Now that it's here, now that this highly anticipated game is here, how do you guys see it playing out?
Well, you're right. They did lose to Mount Vernon last year in the playoffs, and like I said, I really wanted to see this game last year. That both of them, they were really similar, and just a lot of names that popped on both sides. And I think they're still kind of similar. I mean, TJ McCutcheon had a good night the other night. But Lorena's got guys that are capable of putting up a big night too. I don't know, they were playing a China Spring defense, which, like DJ mentioned, was an experienced defense coming back. If I weren't going to Ratliff Stadium on Friday night, I'd be real jealous of DJ for getting to cover this one. Because
I'm going to Connally, la-vega. John's going to West.
Oh, did you? Okay.
So DJ saw Lorena last week, and she was like, I'm going to shake it up, go see some different.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm jealous of Johnny then a little bit, but yeah, and you know what? Because it's early in the season, and so you discovered what teams have, and I think it's going to be a real night of discovery out in West because Lorena, like you said, Jackson Generals played well, but they're still. I mean, they lost a lot of leadership. Lorena did, and when you play China Spring and West and la-vega in non-district, you need leadership to come to the forefront. So will that happen for them? And I feel like West maybe has more of that back. They've got their two guys that alternated at quarterback, or still their two guys alternating at quarterback. So maybe that gives them a little bit of an advantage there.
What do you think, DJ?
Yeah, I feel like West does have a little bit of an edge. They're coming off a win. And they're at home. And those are, like you said, those two communities really wanted to see this game. I think, at the China Spring game, it was at China Spring. Mm-hmm. And it was packed. Like I couldn't even sit in the press box. I couldn't even sit in the stands. I was standing in front of the press box for most of the game, trying to take notes, trying to tweet at the same time.
Yikes.
But yeah, like there was nowhere to sit. There was nowhere to park, and I got there early. So I kind of see a similar thing happen out in West. I feel like home field advantage is going to play a big part in that game as well.
Well, you guys mentioned it. I mean, obviously, Ray Biles certainly not afraid to test his team in non-district, and I think those kind of things, play big as the season progresses. Last year, Lorena started the year 0-2. They lost to China Spring. They lost to Franklin. Both of those teams ended up winning state championships.
And they were both one possession losses, I think.
And Lorena won the next 14 games and won a state championship itself. Ray Biles isn't worried about non-district losses. He wants to test his team. This is going to be a great test. Chad, you mentioned the similarities between the programs. I think that's a great point. Even boiling down to the school colors. I mean, we're talking about red and black versus red and black here. It's going to be a fun one. Who am I going to pick? I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it a little more, but it's going to be a fun game. I mean, TJ McCutcheon is a great player for West. Lorena has some studs in like Jaden Porter and Joe Gutshaw. Gutshaw was, of course, our defensive player of the year last year. He's a beast. So, it'll be a lot of fun. And as DJ said, I think it'll be jam-packed, standing room only. Hopefully John lets David Woodard know that he's coming. And, get a spot in the press box. So finally, Chad, you mentioned it, but you are headed to Odessa this week. You're going to cover the Midway Panthers. There you go. Little Friday Night Lights. Nice. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's an iconic high school football destination made famous by Friday Night Lights, that book by Buzz Bissinger, and of course the movie of the same name. I only watched a very little bit of the TV show, but I don't think the TV show had anything to do with Permian.
Well, it wasn't even set in Odessa. It was like some made up town, right?
Yeah.
West Canaan.
Right.
No, West Canaan is Varsity Blues, right?
Yeah, I think it was Dillon, right? The Dillon Panthers, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I just checked the copyright in this book, and my edition is 1991. And I'm not sure when exactly I read it, but I know I was in junior high when I read Friday Night Lights. And so even though I went to Texas Tech and covered high school football out there for 3 years, I never went to Ratliff Stadium. This will be my first time going there, and really excited about it. Friday Night Lights made me want to write a book, and I ended up writing Republic of Football, which was kind of my answer to Friday Night Lights, I guess,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, one of the first books I can remember that like took you behind the scenes was a book called A Season on the Brink. It was written in the 80s by John Feinstein. He was behind the scenes with the Indiana Hoosiers basketball team. But shortly thereafter, I read Friday Night Lights, and I was like, dude, Texas high school football, this is what it's all about. I mean, it was just well written, well researched. I thought Buzz Bissinger did a great job of bringing the characters to life as real people. I mean, obviously they were real people. So anyway, we went off on a little tangent there, but my question to you guys is, with Ratliff Stadium sort of in mind as this iconic destination, got me to thinking about like bucket list sports places. So where would that be for you personally? It does not have to be high school football related. Where would you most want to go?
Go ahead, DJ.
I have a few. I can't really just pick one.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well, obviously y'all know I'm obsessed with baseball.
Sure.
So if I could go back in time and go to Rosenblatt and watch the College World Series at Rosenblatt, that'd be a dream.
Chad, didn't you go to Rosenblatt?
No, it was at the new park.
Okay.
By the time I went, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but definitely Omaha. MLB wise, I'd love to go to Fenway at some point. I've only ever been to Minute Maid and Globe Life. So my dad trains racehorses, so
Wrigley. Yeah, I would also
Wrigley.
chime in Wrigley.
Yeah, for sure. My dad trains racehorses, so Churchill Downs. We've never had a horse run well enough to make it to the Derby.
That would be tough, yeah.
That would be really cool, going to Churchill Downs for the Derby because you had a horse running in it. That would be something.
And then recently I've gotten into motorsport because some of my best friends are really big motorsport fans. I'm mostly watching F1 right now. Going to an actual Grand Prix would be impossible because the tickets are like $5,000 and $10,000. But maybe at some point going to like the Monaco Grand Prix or Monza. Those are both in Europe, so it'd be expensive. But I don't know. That'd be a really cool experience, just being at an F1 race, like right there, the car's going 2,000 miles an hour on some really good tracks. So some really historic tracks as well. I think that'd be really fun.
Awesome. Good answers. Chad?
Well, Ratliff Stadium is up there. That's a cool one. I'm definitely not underrating that experience. But the Rose Bowl is always one. And in fact, when they talked about Big 12, Pac-12 mergers before UCLA and USC decided to split, I thought that would be cool to go to LA and go to a game in the Rose Bowl to see Texas Tech play there. I don't know that Texas Tech will ever qualify to play in the Rose Bowl game. So, but that would be fun. Also, speaking of Europe, maybe Wembley Stadium, going to a soccer game in Wembley. And then stateside, Busch Stadium has kind of started to creep up on my list. I feel like maybe it's the next one behind Fenway and Wrigley in terms of, or Yankee Stadium too. I'm kicking myself for not going to the old Yankee Stadium. So those are a few of mine.
Those are good ones. Busch Stadium certainly known for just rabid baseball fans. I mean, I have a couple of really good friends who are Cardinal fans, and I can vouch for that they're insane. So my own answers to this. So part of it would be the game as much as the destination. So I have covered national championship football game. That was at Jerry World. That was the year Ohio State won. I've covered a couple of national championship basketball games, both men and women, but like two men's. UConn one with Kemba Walker. I covered that one at Jerry World, and then of course Baylor. But I haven't been to the World Series. I haven't been to the NBA Finals and Super Bowl. Those would be like bucket list things, I think. And I've wanted to go to the World Series just as a fan. And again, as DJ mentioned, a tough ticket to get price wise. But certainly those would be up there. And then I have personally, I've been a lot of cool places, and DJ, I would certainly recommend Wrigley as a baseball destination, but I've never been to New York City, and I want to go to MSG. I want to go to Yankee Stadium. I want to go to Rucker Park and play a little, pickup game at Rucker Park. I would probably get, like booed off the court, but
you want to actually play in a game?
Yes,
at Rucker Park.
Yeah, I mean, I still get up and down the court, as an old man. So I would love to play a game at Rucker Park.
I want to be the guy sitting there with my phone on the sidelines when you do that. With my camera up.
Booing me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's good stuff. So Chad will be at the Midway Permian game. DJ going to la-vega Connally. We didn't really break down that matchup, but I think it's going to be a fun one. La-vega has kind of had their number, like sort of historically. I think in football, Connally almost views la-vega as sort of like the big brother. I think it's a psychological thing that they've got to get past.
But la-vega is Connally's Oklahoma.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's not that way in other sports. I mean, in basketball, it's usually flipped. Connally usually has la-vega's number. But if they can get past that and beat la-vega, I mean, I think that would be huge for Connally's confidence. We'll see.
I know the kids are excited. Talking to some of the players yesterday with the last year's game not happening, they're ready for it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we'll see you guys at the games, and thanks for joining us.